of the National Executive Council of the Muslim Lecturers Association, MLA, I warmly welcome you to this important webinar titled Classrooms to Cabinets, Activating Academic Leadership for Democracy and Governance. As academics, we are entrusted with the responsibility of generating knowledge, shaping minds, and providing evidence-based solutions to societal challenges. However, the impact of scholarship should not end within the walls of our classrooms and laboratories. Our societies and nations need principled, competent, and visionary leaders whose decisions are informed by knowledge, ethics, and a commitment to public good. Today's discussion provides an opportunity to reflect on how academics can contribute more effectively to governance, public policy, democratic institutions, and nation building. It is our hope that this engagement will inspire meaningful dialogue and practical pathways for translating intellectual capital into transformative leadership. I particularly commend the organizers, MLA SNIDA, for thoughtfully scheduling this webinar on Nigeria's Democracy Day, as we commemorate June 12 and reflect on our nation's democratic journey. The theme of today's engagement is both timely and compelling. It reminds us that sustainable democracy and good governance require the active contribution of scholars, researchers, and intellectual leaders whose knowledge and integrity can help shape public policy and national development. I appreciate the organizers for providing this important platform for reflection and dialogue. I also appreciate all participants for taking time to join us. With these remarks, I declare the webinar open. I wish of the Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Prof, for the outstanding welcome address. At this point, I will hand over the mic to our distinguished Dr. Lukman Raimi to anchor the program. Sir, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much for anchoring the program so far. Once again, on behalf of the Muslim Lecturers Association, MLA, and also CNIDA, which is the think tank committee of MLA, to this important discourse, which we call Democracy Day Discourse, DDD. This is not the first time we'll be having discourse. This should be the fourth one. And for this year, we are looking at a very important thematic title entitled Classroom to Cabinet, Activating Academic Leadership for Democracy and Governance. In other words, we observe that the academia, the eggheads, the professors, the intellectuals in the ivory towers, they seem to be politics shy. And if you look at even the recent primaries, across the political parties, you discover that academics are visibly absent. Professors, associate professors, doctors, those who are actively teaching, they are visibly absent. And when you have a country like ours, with so many socioeconomic and political challenges, and the custodians of ideas are not there, then how then can we make headway? So this is a very big challenge. And to discuss this very important topic, we have invited scholars across, the academia. So the first person I would like to introduce is no other person than Professor Ismail Ibrahim, who is a professor of mass communication at the University of Lagos Department of Mass Communication. So he's been in the academia for long, and he also has roots in the civil society, NGO, among others. And there is also an experienced person in university governance at the University of Lagos. So we want to tap from his wealth of experience. Prof, you are welcome to this event.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the second person to be introduced is no other person than Dr. Yunusa Olumuyiwa. He's an associate professor of finance at the Department of Banking and Finance, Olabisi Onabanjo University, Ogun State. He's an active member of ASU. So he's a comrade. He has seen it all. He knows where the shoes, actually pinch the academic community. And as we speak, he just landed, back to Lagos. He went to Abuja for his advocacy. Today is Democracy Day. So any moment from now, he's going to join us. And if he's around, okay, I think he's around. Very good. Comrade, please say.
Thank you for having me.
You can see that comrades is always very punctual, despite the fact that he has very, very loaded schedule. He was still able to make it from Abuja to Lagos and from Lagos to Ishagamu. So thanks for joining the conversation. The last person to be introduced is no other person than Associate Professor Olanike Adelakun, who is an Associate Professor of Law at Leeds City University. When it comes to the issue of women, the marginalized, the widow, the girl child, and those who have been excluded from the dividend of democracy, from the legal perspective, Professor is a force to be reckoned with. Please say salam to the house.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. And I really apologize for joining a bit late.
You are prompt, Prof. So you didn't miss anything. So we really appreciate your coming. Most of those who came in maybe 10 or 15 minutes behind schedule is actually due to the normal Nigeria factor. And that's one of the things we are discussing. There are so many things we are supposed to have put in place, infrastructural facilities, among others, but all these are lacking. People join in a way that is very, very difficult. Electricity is not stable. People power their, internet with generator, and so many people join with phone. So all these are things that we are contending with. So let us go to the discussion proper. And I would like to start with Professor Ismail. The question that I want to ask you is a general question, which is going to, be used as a springboard for subsequent question. So, Prof, why is it that the eggheads, the intellectuals in the Ivory Tower, are not in politics? Why are they not in politics? They are custodians of knowledge. They teach, theories. They formulate policies. Yet, they are not on the field to implement this. Why, Prof?
Okay, thank you very much for the honor of having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity. I don't take it for granted. I think that question is a reflection of the state of anomy in which we hold intellectualism at the moment. I want to see our society, Nigeria, as a society that is suffering from stagnation. And that stagnation is fed by intellectual menopause, which a lot of our universities generate. Whereas universities are the laboratory where we actually generate ideas to drive society. So if we are actually playing the role we're supposed to be playing, that question should not arise at all. And let me give you an example. When we have problems in the society, even in politics, it is the university that people run to for solutions. About 6 years ago, five years plus some months ago, the whole world was shut down by COVID. We have people in government, they are helpless, they were unable to do anything. We have businesses, in fact, billionaires were unable to do anything. So where did the society resort to? They went back to researchers, to the universities to help to bring out solutions. And everywhere was shut down until they had a breakthrough in terms of research through the development of vaccines by the universities that eventually bailed us out of the problem. So when we are now asking the questions about why are academics not in politics, I think it's just because it's a reflection of that problem of intellectual menopause. When we as academics, we refuse to play the role we're actually designed to play, that is when that problem arises. And then people believe that, oh, academics, they are theorists, and what they do is actually not relevant to reality. But again, in terms of governance, most of the models that we use now, democracy, parliamentarian system, presidential system, 3 arms of government, these are products of intellectual striving efforts. They came out of the laboratory of intellectuals who sat down, reflected on what is the best way to actually run our society. And theories themselves, they are abstractions of reality. The theories we have today, they were abstracted from observable reality of yesterday. So when academics go to sleep, then they are divorced from the reality of what is happening in the society, and then they rely on old dead theories to run the society. And when this happens, then people outside, they don't see the relevance. They have that dichotomy between what we do as academics and what is happening in the society. So to me, the question should not arise. The question arose because we have left our responsibility. We are in a state of inertia. We have which led to the state of intellectual menopause. We are no longer productive. They don't see the relevance between what we do in the academia and what is happening in society. And it is not so. At least if we're to go by anything, let's use the example of COVID. The whole world was down. Nobody could do anything. And it is the universities, it is the intellectuals in the universities, the researchers that actually provided a way out for the society. So for me, if academics, if they are not going into politics, then I think it's a misreading of what should be the role of academics. We should provide leadership. Too consequential, and I'm going to end there. I will talk about Tony Blair's government in the UK and Bill Clinton's government in the US. For several years, the Labour Party in the UK, they were shut out of government. In the era of Margaret Thatcher, those golden eras, they were shut out of government because they were bereft of ideas. And the Labour Party, through Tony Blair, had to go to Anthony Giddens, who is in London School of Economics, who helped him to develop what they call the third way. It's like a midway between extreme socialist ideas and extreme capitalism. So they developed a midway. And with that, they were able to actually capture power, and Labour was able to rule for several years. That was a product of intellectual output. The same thing with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton also went, for several years, the Democrats were shut out of power. Clinton went to Harvard, and it was Harvard, some of the intellectuals there, that helped him to develop, some of the concepts that actually turned out, evolved into his campaign manifesto. And that was the basis on which he actually won his election. So it is when we refuse to play our role, that is when people see us as irrelevant, as purveyors of theories and not reality. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof, for that beautiful explanation. Before moving to another question, I would like to go to comrades. That's Professor Yunusa. The reason is not far-fetched. You have spoken from the perspective of an administrative officer in the university, a top-notch person in the civil society. Well, let us hear from the ASU. Let's hear from the leadership of the academic staff of university. Why is it that professors, associate professors in the universities are not in politics? So, Professor Yunusa, your perspective.
Thank you very much, Professor Raimi. Thank you for inviting me for this program. The question you have asked is a complex one, and the Nigerian university system, as it were, in recent time have been battered with a lot of challenges. In the past, it was never like that. In the 60s, most of the drivers of policies and those that supported the military intellectually to develop the country materially in the 90s were actually intellectuals from the university system. And most of them were even activists, the Bade models of this world and the likes. So the challenge now is that the operating environment is very challenging for most academics, and those challenges are becoming overwhelming for most academics. And more importantly, there is a challenge of the states. If you observe in recent time, there are so many people in the university system, for instance, who don't have business in the university system.
Yeah, I think Prof has a network issue, so he's going to join us. So while waiting for Prof to join, I would like to request the perspective of Professor Olanike, but with a little modification. Prof, as a professor of law and an expert on issues related to policies, among others, can an academic remain objective and impartial in governance while simultaneously belonging to advocacy-oriented union like ASU and some others, maybe trade union generally? Can they really be objective while teaching and also going to politics?
Yes, My simple answer would be yes. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, academics can actually maintain their objectivity while at the same time getting involved in politics. And this is where the issue of integrity comes in, because when you know that you actually have to make that impact, being a member of ASU or any other trade union does not necessarily rob you of your personality. And the personality is what actually reflects in who you are, how you push your voice forward, and how you actually protect what you believe in to make that change. And in a way, this is linked to why we don't have a lot of academics in politics, because people have the mindset that once you get into politics as an academic and you really want to maintain your integrity, it will be so difficult to keep your hands clean. But in my own opinion, I don't think you necessarily have to get your hands dirty, because coming from academics, there's always this expectation that you are a person of high integrity. And I think the excuse of most of our colleagues is that, oh, once you get into politics, you are just going to have to join them. That if you can't beat them, you have to join them. But the truth is, we cannot sit behind closed doors and solve problems from there. And that is the major problem we have in Nigeria today. Most of us are content just finding solutions to the problems. But the truth is, does the solution actually get out there? And if we keep saying we don't want to get into politics because we don't want to get our hands soiled, then there is no way we will actually make them realize that we can actually engage in politics without necessarily getting our hands soiled. And the fact that you're a member of ASU or any other trade union does not mean you will get your hands soiled, or it does not mean that you cannot maintain that objectivity if you are in politics. It's a matter of just having that platform to take your advocacy forward in a way that actually projects you in the light of what you are known for, and actually making people to see that it is actually a possible thing to be involved in politics, to be a member of a trade union, and to still be able to achieve your goals without necessarily getting your hands dirty. And once we start doing that, you will see that it will be a step towards changing the narrative and making people to see and to realize that, oh, we should be active players in changing the face of democracy in Nigeria. Thank you.
Very beautiful submission from Professor Olanike. But before you go, I don't want to leave you. You are a professor of law, and your submission is very, very apt, that we can still maintain our objectivity, our neutrality, our professionalism. But from what Professor Muiwa was trying to, explain earlier on before he was, removed by Zoom, he mentioned that the environment is not enabling. Poverty has been weaponized. And for you to obtain maybe a registration form, you need to pay between 10 million and 50 million. And the most academics, their salaries for a year is not even up to 20 or 10 million. So how do you now maintain your objectivity if your godfather says, I'm going to put that money down, but you sign an agreement that you are going to be responsible for me. You are going to be there physically, but I have a remote control. I'll be the one controlling you. So I want to push that particular question to you because you are from the law background. So how can you then maintain objectivity when poverty has been weaponized and godfatherism is actually the foundation for politics in Nigeria?
Thank you so much, Prof. That is a very cogent and sensitive one, and which I would say is the root of the problem of politics in Nigeria and why so many people decide to actually stay in politics. But the truth is this, the fact the financial requirement to actually be able to engage in politics in Nigeria is actually the barrier to effective democracy in this country. Because if I have to get a nomination form of maybe 50 million, 10 million, the truth is, how much do I earn as an academic? Then it comes down to who is able to fund it, who is able to who is able to bring ideas on how we raise these funds. And if this is not coming from a pocket, then there's a tendency that who provides the funds, of course, dictates what you do. And that brings us down to making politics in Nigeria to be actually of service, call to service, and not by what you have. And I think a step towards the right direction will be to place a limit on campaign, the financials or the finance to be put into campaigns. And there should be a kind of room for crowdsourcing or crowdfunding for campaign purposes. And there should be a limit. Political campaigns in Nigeria should be strictly regulated and not just thrown open the way it is today. So if we make it less attractive in terms of finances, then you will see that those that are always looking towards just enriching their pockets would be less interested in politics. Then it becomes a call to service and a call to humanity. And by that, you see that the people that actually have what it takes to solve the actual problems or the social problems of this country would be interested and would put themselves forward to solve these problems. So we have to demarket politics in Nigeria.
Beautiful, beautiful submission from Professor Lanke. So let me go back to Professor Ismail Ibrahim, highly experienced in governance, civil society, and most importantly, global best practice in academia. So, Prof, I want to ask, Nigerian academics, professors, associate professors have historically served as returning officers to enhance credibility of the election. However, Prof, some have also faced allegation of electoral misconduct. So therefore, as the participation of academics strengthen electoral integrity, or as political involvement compromise the reputation of the academia? So this is a real question.
Okay, thank you very much. I will go to that question, but before I go into that, I want to go back to the previous question that you asked about politics. I think we, again, as intellectuals, we fail if we don't properly define the problem. When we talk about politics and we focus only on elective posts or elective positions, then it's actually a devaluation of what politics means. So if someone is elected, the focus is on the president, is on the governor, is on the chairman of local government. They all rely on the civil service, people that are working there, to implement their policies. So if you don't have a competent civil service, or you have a very corrupt civil service, you are going nowhere. You will not be able to achieve much. And that is where I think intellectuals come in. In governance, we need to make a distinction between capacity and capability. Most of the time, if we look at Lagos State, Lagos has the resources, Lagos has the capacity, to do so many good things. But the people in power, in government, the civil service, the politicians, do they have the capability to do what is right? Capability is having the ability to translate the resources that you have into tangible values. They don't have. But as intellectuals in the university, we have, through research, we have the capability. So how do we make sure that we translate, how do we make sure that we get the politicians, to make use of the capability that we have in terms of evidence that we have through our research to show that these are the best ways to do things. How do we make sure that they have a buy-in into that? I think that is something that we need to work out as intellectuals. And that is why people in government, most of the time, when they get there, they try to get some technical experts, special advisor on this, special advisor on that, to help to advise them. So how do we, even if you are not getting into those elective positions, how do we get into that position of like an advisory position to be able to get politicians, people in government to have a buy-in into the capability that we have that can actually help to improve governance in the society. Now, let me go back to the question that you asked. I've participated in elections before as returning officer, and obviously, what the system so far, I think those people that designed that initiative is to leverage on the reputational capital of intellectuals so that they can provide some form of credibility, because people don't believe that the system is credible. So they think that, okay, once we have academics within the systems, they are credible, then people will believe it. But we need to, again, we need to distinguish when we talk about change between structure and the agency. When the structure is defective, there is nothing that you can do that can actually correct that, except you try to correct the defective system. And that is why most of the elections, even though we have academics who are returning officers, they have different roles within the system, those outcomes still end up being challenged in courts, because people believe that perhaps the corruption of the system actually happened before it gets to the table of the returning officer. Ballots were seized. This is not where the professors are involved. Ballot papers were seized. At the collation centers, professors are not there, because professors will only rely on whatever results were compiled in those collation centers, and they are just to validate. So in a number of instances where the system don't work, the professors that are acting as elected officers, they end up validating a very corrupt process. So, and that is why we need to actually address the system. And that is why, as intellectuals, we are the conscience of the society. When things are going wrong, we need to be able to come out and speak out boldly. And interestingly, most of the politicians, they are maybe our current students or former students, because a lot of these politicians also, they believe that they need some sort of validation in terms of qualifications. So they come to the universities to get those qualifications. So if we speak out, I think they will try to, they're likely that they are going to listen to us is very high. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we have to be cautious, as academics, in trying to bond our reputational capital so that we are not used to validate a very corrupt, a system that is already compromised. And once that reputational capital is burnt, it's very, very difficult to actually make it up again. Thank you.
Very beautiful submission from Professor Ismail. Professor Muyiwa, are you around? Are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, beautiful. So, Professor Muyiwa, this question is reserved for you because of your experience. You may also conclude your former question, but this one reads thus. So, given the growing JAPA phenomenon and the resulting depletion of academic talent, should academics who enter politics be seen as abandoning their students or as attempting to address the systematic challenge responsible for brain drain? So the former question and this one, you can just address both together because of your experience on the field.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it was the network It's fairly
It's
raining
part
here.
of the system.
Yes. So I think as intellectuals and as academics, we participating in politics, like what mentioned by the professor of law, that it has to do with individuals as the system has impoverished us to a large extent. The kind of system that is being created, the structure of the system. Like if you are participating in politics, partisan politics now, as clarified by Professor Ibrahim, partisan politics in Nigeria is very expensive. And that's not to say that we don't have academics that have joined partisan politics. The ruling party today is being headed by a professor, is one of our colleagues. And there are a number of them that are also in partisan politics. And the experience they have shared is not far from what you have also highlighted in terms of funding. Taking funding out of the equation, we are better off to participate in that space. But that space is not just limited to partisan politics. From our classroom to town, to cities, to society at large, we have a role to play. Most of the people driving politics are students. Most of them are past students. Most of them, we are connected one way or the other. So we still have a role to play if we don't have that capacity to do partisan politics. And that's not to say that we should leave their space completely for them. The Japa syndrome you mentioned, the syndrome is also changing. People that have Japa are Japaing back. A lot of people that have gone, they've seen the reality, and a number of them are also coming back. And Japa is both ways. There is a brain drain. There's also a brain gain through that platform. In essence, the political space and the way it is structured, we all have a role to play because we cannot abandon that space for the current ruling elite. And they also know that we have a role to play in that space. And there is nothing in terms of policy, there is nothing in terms of their implementation that academics are not involved one way or the other, whether at the appointment level, whether as consultants. We have been playing some roles in that direction. So the JACMA idea and the role of academics in that regard and leaving that space for them, we have never left the space. If you look at the Labour Party in Nigeria, we started the Labour Party. The academics started the Labour Party. It was just because that space became very toxic and money bags came and they took that space. And one of the things, efforts in recent time, is to see how that space can be recaptured. So, like us as a collective of intellectuals now, there is a section in our space, what we call Center for Public Education. That's nationwide we are mobilizing and we are strategizing. It's different from our conventional union, like an outfit that can do those engagements. So, as academics, we that role is very clear. We can't just leave that space and continue to interact with that space until we get to that level. If you go to National Assembly, we have a number of colleagues who are also there. We need to change the law. We need to change the processes. We need to change the structure. There is nowhere that solution will come from except from the classrooms, except from those of us that are actually driving that sector. If you permit me, I would also like to just mention the case of returning officers. I could remember in 2011 when Atayu Jega was the INEC chair, we had an understanding with him, even at the level of our union, and we participated effectively in that process. And after that process, we wrote a report of our experience. It's not just only the returning officer. Even at the lower level too, our members, intellectual participate at the ward level, at local government level, and the risk is too high. That is why those of us in the collective, we have to back out. But individuals are still playing some roles in their individual capacity. And now we are also assessing that this reputational capital that we have, we need to use it to help this country to move forward. That's why there are some discussions behind the scene. to ensure that some of those risks, we can minimize them and also help to have credible elections. So by that, we are also playing our role as intellectuals. So we always have our space, and we must fill that space beyond the four corners of the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that beautiful submission. So I'm going to go back to Professor Olanike, based on her expertise and also agenda. Looking at the women, they are marginalized, they are excluded, and there are so many issues facing women that politicians are expected to address. So from your own perspective, Prof, for women academics who are going into politics, what are the issues you would like to advise them to place as front burner issues to address the issue of women, girl child, among others?
Thank you so much. I think this question is like twofold. I would say the challenge of women academics going into politics and then their role when they get into politics.
Correct.
I think the challenge of women academics going into politics is not different from the challenge of other women going into politics. That is the bitter truth. Because the truth is we cannot completely detach patriarchy from our political system in Nigeria. And it is a space that if a woman dares to enter, you have to be strong emotionally, physically, because there will be a lot of allegations. And this is a society where there's stereotype, and we are judgmental, and unfortunately the most of the criticisms and the challenges that women face in politics are actually from women themselves. So it's a space where women have to rise up to support each other, to understand that going into politics does not make you a prostitute, in quotes. And going into politics does not make you immoral. Rather, we should start seeing things from the light or from the perspective of an active player. That when you have women in politics, there are some issues that are best understood by women. And when they contribute directly to solving these issues, there's a likelihood of having sustainable solutions to these problems. So I think my advice would be for women generally to start supporting each other, especially to not support those that are in politics, and then to those women that are actually in politics and that hold sensitive positions, like being in the legislature, holding key executive positions. I think the most important thing is inclusivity. Include other women, include the girl child, include the boy child. Because at times we just focus on, oh, the problems of the girl child, the problems of the girl child, and we focus on solving the problems of the girl child for the girl child by the girl child, forgetting that the girl child does not live in isolation of the boy child, which means the boy child, the men also have active roles in solving these problems. So it is important for the women in politics to understand this and to see how to bring about an inclusive and sustainable solutions, and to engage other women, to engage the girl child, to engage the boy child, and to also engage men as active players in sustainable solutions to these problems. Thank you.
This is brilliant. Look at the word inclusivity. Some people champion, agenda for men, some for women, but Prof, encourage inclusivity. If you take care of the women and you leave the men, then you leave the men as recruits for bandits, terrorists, among others. Very brilliant submission. So I would like to go back to Professor Ismail. This is a very important question. If you observe in recent times, whether in the mainstream media or the social media, of course, which is your constituency, those who have remained vocal are usually people who are not really intellectuals in quotes, like VDM, among others. So my question is this. In the face of Nigeria's economic, governance, and security challenges, does a silent academic forfeit the moral authority to be regarded as a public intellectual? VDM is the public intellectual now. You may also add maybe Showore, but those who know it all, the eggheads, they have been permanently silent. Does it mean they have fulfilled their moral obligation as public intellectuals? Because you cited example from UK, US, which of course are very good example. But in our own climate in Nigeria, our intellectuals, they are silent.
Thank you very much, I think, for that very brilliant question. I think, again, we need to make a distinction here because being loud in the public space does not mean saying the right things. You know, a lot of people that are very loud, you know, what they say most of the time are nonsensical things that are not useful. And the way our media is structured, you know, most of the time they thrive on what I call casino journalism, you know, things that are frivolous, things that are not relevant, things that are even outright lies, you know. So I wouldn't encourage that we actually register our presence in the public marketplace by saying, joining that chorus of very nonsensical things. But yeah, as intellectuals, we have a moral authority to correct things when things are going wrong. And if we are like the moral compass, people want to listen to, okay, what's the opinion of Professor So-so, what's the opinion of this intellectual on this? They want to listen to us because we have that moral authority. So because of that, we need to speak out when things seem to be going wrong. But we also need, in speaking out, we need to be focused on solutions. For me, being a professor of journalism, I've always taught my students about solution-based journalism, that when you are reporting about things, it's good to criticize, but please come up with solutions to that problem. Solutions that are realistic, solutions that are sustainable. I had a long conversation with a colleague from Finland 2 days ago. The colleague wanted to come to Nigeria. He's a Nigerian, by the way, and he is actually planning to come to participate in a conference at the University of Lagos. But he got an advisory from his university, and they said to him that Lagos is not safe because of kidnapping, because of all those rubbish. This was an advisory from their government. So he went there to challenge them and say that, look, I'm from Nigeria. This guy, I just came back actually from Lagos. This can be true. So they said, okay, if you say what the government is saying is not true, these are media reports from Nigeria saying that it is not safe. You know, everything has been taken over by bandits. You know, so what we have in the media, actually, they tend to, a lot of people from outside the country, they tend to pick their impression, their understanding of the way things work in the country from the media. As intellectuals, a lot of charlatans have seized that space. We need to take it. We need to take it over. But as someone that understands the way the media work, it's not cheap. You know, you might have the best ideas in this world, but if you don't have the resources, you know, to actually project that idea, then they will only remain in the realm of ideas. They will never be known by people. So they are gatekeepers. So, but that does not mean that we should not actually talk And besides volunteering our ideas in the public spaces, a lot of academics also, we have access to those in power. You know, we can always send them ideas about the way they should actually run things. And believe me, they do listen when they are confronted with superior arguments and with better ways of doing things. Remember, I said before, they have the capacity, but maybe what is lacking is they don't have the capability to do things. So if correcting them outside, speaking out, and coming up with solutions is the best way to actually do that, by all means, we should do it. But if actually also correcting them by sharing our thoughts with them in private is the best way to do that. It's important we do that. We need to understand also, because this is a Muslim Lecturers Association, we also need to draw our value system from our belief system. So, and part of the belief system in Islam is that, look, if you, for instance, you have an information that borders on security, public safety, you don't go out and just broadcast it. You know, you have to pass it through the appropriate channels so that they can do the right thing. Look, a lot of the activities of Boko Haram, at least we read that, they were actually enhanced by the sort of things that our people are posting. There was a military officer that was killed in Borno State. So when they came under attack, this military officer escaped. And then Sahara reporters put this online, and it was from these reports of Sahara reporters that those people were able to locate where this man was, and they are able to get him and finish him off before before help could come his way. So it's important that we learn that principle of how to actually correct. And I think we have very good examples in what within our religious beliefs, within our value system, that taught us how to actually correct things. We can correct things in public and how to correct things also in private. Thank you very much.
That's a very good submission. I wouldn't know if Comrade subscribed to that submission from the perspective of trade unionism. You know, protests, criticism, public statement, among others. Your view, Professor Muyiwa.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I subscribe largely to that approach because in the trade union movement, we love our country, we are patriots, and anything that can endanger our people that we are trying to agitate for, we will ensure that their interest is also protected. The social media space and the communication space have aggravated a lot of issues in this country. And what we observe is that we have a lot of rent seekers under the guise of activism. A lot of things that we know we have that we also communicate to government without necessarily going public. And we have fostered a kind of a good relationship with them in terms of helping our country to be better. I could call my recent experience that's from Ogun State. I drove, we are in a convoy that drove all the way to Sokoto. And things were not as terrible as being painted in the media, that we went by road to Sokoto and we came back. And it's not as terrible. I'm not saying things are not bad in some places, but it's not as terrible as we paint them. Because a lot of people that are painting some of these pictures, they have their own rights that they extract from interests that don't want this country to continue to enjoy democracy. So as public intellectuals, being silent, that word silent in quotes, does not mean people are not acting. There's one between engaging and making noise. Somebody can be making noise in the media for the sake of self-interest, and we have a lot of them. There is nothing wrong with protests. There is nothing wrong in carrying placards. There is nothing wrong in doing press releases, but you need to do critical analysis and the effect of whatever strategy you are going to implement. Sometimes if you want to drive home your points and you want the government to listen to you, sometimes you don't have access. I'll give you a recent experience that we want government, the agreement they signed with our union, they didn't commit themselves to implementing that agreement. And we want them to fully implement that agreement as agreed. We have explored all other means of engagement without coming to the public. We had series of meetings with them, and we saw that one of the ways to make them, the power center, actually know that that agreement has not been implemented is to do press releases. And we did it across the country, and we gave them solutions where and how. And within a tickle of an eye, they are starting implementing that agreement. So I think we need to love our country. We need to love our people. It's not just about shouting. It's not about noise making. It's about doing what is right and having the right intentions and talking to the right people, particularly the power center. As we call, we have the capacity to actually do a lot of things as a collective, as intellectual in this country. But most of the time, we go all out. I remember our recent experience when we were negotiating the new agreement with the government. We go all out to meet people that can listen, that the president can listen to. And we got them even in odd hours. And the president and the minister listened to them. We went back to the table and we were able to solve a lot of problems. So a lot of problems can be solved by academics. Most of the people that are running this country, our brothers, our friends, our wives, our husbands, we know them. They live in our community. They live in Nigeria. They go abroad for holiday. They live in Nigeria. We have access to them or know somebody who has access to them. So we don't need to unnecessarily rock the polity by the name of activism or advocacy. We should love our country. We should be patriots. We should do things that can protect the collective image of this country and help this country to be better off, particularly now that we are celebrating about 27 years of democracy in this country. So it's not as if academics are not silent in some places. Why they are silent has been highlighted, but a lot of academics are also playing significant roles. But we can do more by extending beyond our classrooms, by going to the communities, bringing this problem. There are a lot of problems to be solved in Nigeria, and it's through scientific research that we can solve those problems. There are a lot of problems. Fundamentally, issue of poverty is endemic in this country and is connected to every other problem of security and the likes. So we need to action. It's not by noise making. We need to actually go to those communities, go to those sectors, bring those problems back to our universities, back to our classroom, discuss them, research them, then take the solution back and connect with that community. That's one of the ways we can help this country to move forward. It's not by going to social, anybody can write anything, all in the name of seeking recognition or extracting rent. If you look at the history, what happened in 2011, some people protested and they were in opposition. If you follow the news, Arise News yesterday did something. One of the people that were in opposition in 2011, 20 whatever, 20, they were there. They said that the assumptions that were guiding their opposition as at that time were wrong. When they got to reality, when they saw reality, a lot of things they said they could do or they were criticizing previous government, they could not also do it. But they said they are open to suggestions, to ideas that can make them better, ideas that can actually create solution for us to be better as a collective and as a country. And that's the height of humility, to say you are open to solution. So a lot of people that just criticize, for example, criticism, come up with practicable, workable solution and communicate it effectively to the power center so that it can transform to change that we all desire, that we will have a country that we can be proud of and we can call our own and continue to start development in this country. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Sorry,
So we are.
please, moderator. Sorry, I know that we are way past
I'm
our.
coming back to you, Prof. I'm coming back to you.
Let me just mention this. Sorry.
Okay, please go
Let
ahead.
me just
In 1 minute.
because while we are still in 1 minute, yes. Sometimes it might be important that you actually organize collectively and confront the government in public when you think that things that they are doing are not going your way. Let me just give you a very quick example. Recently, the US government came up with this, I think, policy on health, to support healthcare in different countries. And we see a number of countries in Africa push back. They say that, one of the conditionalities is that you surrender the data of, your health data, the health data of your citizens, and they cannot do that. This is a policy the Nigerian government has signed. And do you know the implication? The implication is that if you surrender the health data of your entire citizen, people can profile that so they know the sort of systems, the sort of risk, the sort of health, the sort of your vulnerabilities, health vulnerabilities that you have. And in the age, we don't know, people are fighting with drones now. Maybe what will come, they don't even need to fight with drones. They already have our data. They know the sort of vulnerabilities that we have. Is just to send something and then we will all be gone. In that instance, you have to mobilize and challenge the government, because they've gone into something that you are not aware of, and it borders on the interest of everyone. Thank you.
Beautiful. So we are bringing the discourse to a halt. So I'm going to give everyone 1 or 2 minutes to make your submission. So let's start with Professor Olanike. If you could recommend one concrete reform that will strengthen the role of academics in governance and public policy over the next decade, what would it be and why?
Wow, that's a big one. I think what I would recommend would be a kind of partnership. I wouldn't say we are not in partnership with the government, but I would say a kind of compulsory fellowship or partnership on a yearly basis, which would be similar to having academics of different, maybe creating a cabinet or a position to bring in academics of different background on an annual basis to work with the government to research and to profess solutions. So this way, this is not something you go out to start lobbying for, campaigning for. Of course, your work to speak for yourself, you apply for it. Of course, I know this would also be politicized, but it goes a long way in getting us duly represented and hearing our voice and contributing to translating research into policy action.
Very beautiful submission from Professor Olanike. Over to Professor Yunusa. The question again, if you could recommend one concrete reform that would strengthen what we are discussing, that is moving from classroom to the cabinet. So what would you recommend and why?
Okay, thank you very much. Basically is about financing the university system. The classroom, you need to finance it, give it a priority. It has to be prioritized in the development of the nation. Our university system needs reform, and those reform cannot come except we provide needed funding and funding enabling environment. There is no country in the world that has developed. If you follow the trend of issues in Iran, US, and Israel, you could see that Israel, US were targeting universities, they were targeting research institutes, and most of the power balance that occurred were solutions that were created from the universities. And those universities, if appropriate funding had not been made available to them, most of the innovations that they were able to develop to combat that threat could not have been developed. So there's a need for funding like we have prescribed and agreed with government, 1% of the GDP should be set aside for National Research Council. They should allow this to work. Those enablers will create opportunities to access other funding opportunities. We understand government may not be able to fund 100%, but most of the intellectuals are being impoverished is because of the way the university system is structured in recent time, in terms of lack of adequate funding that could engender the provision of basic amenities in our university system. That area is very critical that we cannot develop except we develop our universities, we fund our universities. Whatever reform that we want to use to translate democracy to development would come from the university and will come from adequate funding of the university system for the intellectuals to be able to play their role effectively in the society. Thank you very much.
Beautiful submission from Professor Yunusa. So let's go to Professor Ismail for his own wrap-up.
Thank you very much. Okay, my own suggestion will rest on what I call a theory of change, and that rests on 4 pillars. So the first one is what people call mobilized citizens. So we need, and we are already doing that within the MLA. We are mobilized, we are conscious, we are developing value. We identify the problem that we would like to solve, and we are coming up with sustainable, practical solutions to address that. It's very important that we are organized. So once we organize, then we look out for people with similar ideas to develop a reform coalition. Look for like minds so that you can actually work together. You cannot do it alone. It's a general problem. You have to work with others to address that problem. And once we do that, then we know our value, the value we are bringing in, because we are knowledge creators. We produce knowledge, we produce evidence. We can use that to develop, to help to enhance the capability of those people in power, to improve their processes, to improve their programming, to improve their performance. And once we are able to do that, then we can get political commitment. We can get the elites to be committed to a particular way of doing things. And it is when we do this, if we combine all these together, the possibility of success is very, very high. It's been tested in different places, in different countries, in different societies. I'm part of a project that is testing that, and I can assure you that it is working. You have to be organized. You have to work with others, and you have to bring in value that you can that people can see. Okay, this is the way you are actually contributing to improve their processes, to improve their lives. And once those 3 conditions are present, you get the commitment from politicians, from those people in government. Thank you very much.
Beautiful submission. In wrapping up this particular discourse, I want to emphasize that LMA is not just an association, it's an association of capable intellectuals. You agree with me that the discussion has been very, very lively, pragmatic, and all the solutions provided are doable, they are workable. So at the end of this discourse, we are coming up with a communique which is going to be cascaded to the mainstream media and also social media for further discussion. So I want to thank the panelists for finding time to join this particular conversation. And I want to entertain at least 3 questions. Let me check the chat box. So while checking, I want to acknowledge the presence of so many professors within and outside Nigeria who have joined this beautiful conversation, like Professor Adedeji. I also saw Professor Chris Oga. I saw a number of
Hello, sir. We cannot hear you.
So I was actually logged out, so I'm back. So let's give Professor Abdulwahid Ajibola opportunity to ask a question or make a comment. Go ahead, Prof.
Fellow colleagues, good morning. I'm very much happy to listen to the intellectual disposition of fellow colleagues on this topical issue of moving our country forward. My question is not far-fetched. My question or comment is not far-fetched. The issue boils down to the issue of finance. We have that intellectual capability to contribute to politics and politicking. But one discovers that most often than not, finance is set back. Like my humble self, I've been participating in Ogun State politics and politicking now, and I'm looking forward to joining whoever emerges and the person that is likely to emerge as our governor to Okemosan, because there is likelihood of Senator Samuel Olamilekan Adeola Yayi emerging as the next governor of Ogun State under the APC, and my humble self, I'm a card-carrying member of APC, and I've participated actively in it. But one thing is this issue of finance. How do you think one can, because you see, we from the academic background, we have that tendency of doing things thoroughly, diligently. We are not so much given to this issue of we are not even given to issue of bribe at all. So this diligence, the intellectual prowess, how far do you think it can carry us without finance? Because I've spent millions on this course, and yet it's like there is little or no record. Though the EMSman, the person I'm working for, that is Senator Olamilekan Adeola Yayi, he recognized my work. But one just discovered that some people, because of their self-interest, they'll be fencing someone off. And part of the issue is the finance. So I will so much appreciate my friend and my brother, who is also in the finance realm, to talk more about it. That's why Somuyiwa. The other people can also contribute.
To you. How can we actually weather the storm? Politics has been weaponized. Poverty has been weaponized, and politics is very, very expensive. How do we solve that? Yeah. Professor Muiwa, go ahead. Go ahead.
Somebody is trying to say hello.
Hello.
Later on. Just continue.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. It's been a while. And I appreciate your efforts that you are making politically, and the practical steps you are taking to get engaged with the political class, particularly in Ogun State. It is still the same issue. Where do we get finance? The question is, those people that are actually participating actively, where are they getting their own finance? It's a complex space. It's very complicated. The kind of finance, the size of the funding that is required, and where they get those funding. That's why without economic backbone, economic power, not only in Nigeria, anywhere in the world, you cannot play the kind of politics, this democracy, partisan politics, democracy expects of us. You may have the reputational capital, you may have the grassroots mobilization. Even to mobilize the grassroots, the way the poverty is so endemic, to mobilize people in the grassroots, you need a lot of resources. Look at the candidates you just mentioned. For him to win that ticket and for him to be able to mobilize the local governments, the world, this in Ogun State alone, you and I know the kind of funding he has actually committed to it. And they also have leverage that we don't have. Most of the interventions, because of their own pedigree and the opportunities they have a way of leveraging state resources to actually play politics. We don't have access to those state resources. So state resources is key in their own political activities. And most of them from the business background, they also have strong economic power and economic network. They have established businesses that have big government contracts on a sustainable level. So these are sources that they employ to play the politics. The question is, do we have those sources? Even the diaspora.
Yeah, while waiting for Professor Muiwa, he mentioned the diaspora. The diaspora, they also commit a lot of money. For instance, the exchange rate currently is 1,300 and something to $1. The implication is that if you have people in diaspora and each person just sent to you 10,000 US dollars, if you convert it to Naira, it's a lot of money. Whereas $10,000 is not something very big in the US and other part of the world. And related to that is the issue of godfatherism that we mentioned. There are some people who are extremely rich. They will fund you, but you do their bidding. Go ahead, Professor Muiwa.
So, like the funding is very key from those sources. So, do you have the direct funding? Do you have access to state resources? Do you have huge personal economic capital that you can invest? The social capital is always there. So those are the major sources of funding, apart from other unexplained illicit funding that also come to play. So it's a big business and it's a high-end capital-intensive business. So if we must organize, we must mobilize as recommended by Professor Ismail. Our organization and mobilization, there must also be funding mobilization in that regard too. So this is a serious issue that's actually impeding. But that's not to say that we cannot also run levels that at a time when
okay, I think it's frozen. Zoom user.
Moderator.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can, we lost him. I don't know if I can just briefly come in because I also see one question. That was, yeah. So it's important. We actually need resources. We know that in our climate, it is those people that have money that control the government. You know, we knew the role some people, you know, before 2023 election, although different figures are being bandied around, but we knew that someone like Tony Elumelu contributed a lot of money, you know, to the, to the campaign of the current president. And when he won the election, at least most of us will remember, before he was even sworn in, he went to his house to greet him. You know, he went to his house to greet him, and at least we know what happened. After that, at least he got so many things. He was in different presidential advisory council. So money is very, very important. But where you are limited by money, you should use what you have. There was one of our scholars in the Southwest, who is a professor, who were discussing, and he was complaining that Muslims in the Southwest, we are not actually getting a good deal from the government. A lot of people were expecting that, at least looking at the support that we gave, that it would put a lot of people in positions. And I said, Prof, look, you didn't put, people put money there. I said, but I don't have money. I said, but you have resources. If you go to Saudi Arabia, you go to Islamic Development Bank, you finish from Saudi Arabia, you know the president of IDB. If you can go to them and say, look, my government is working on these priorities, is there a way that IDB can actually support? And you're able to get a commitment from IDB. I said, that is your ticket to see the president. You go to the president and you say that, oh, Mr. President, this is your plan on railway between Abeokuta and maybe Ibadan and Osogbo. I managed to get IDB to support it. They are going to, I said, next time you go to him and you say that you want people, you have people that they think they should put in positions, they will definitely put them. So it's not only money. We might have some social capital that we will be able to use to support it. It might be ideas. My friend and mentor, late memory, Abubakar Momo didn't have money, but he has the respect of many people. It was Abubakar Momo who introduced me to the former governor of Ogun State, Amosun. You know, and I was engaged as a consultant to the Ministry of Education by Amosun because of that. So we might not have money. Money can do a lot, but where we don't have money, please let us make use of what we have. There was a question here that was actually directed, that person mentioned my name. It was on the chat box about the role of students. And I want to put it back to us. Students, they are the future of tomorrow. They have to be involved. But in our own different spaces as lecturers, do we involve the students? When we design our curriculum, do we even get feedback from them to see how this is going to help them? When we have the academic board meeting in our different departments, do we encourage the voice of the student to sit in so that at least we can get direct information from them, maybe whether they are facing victimization from others? That is inclusion. That is inclusion. They are one of the voices that are not included, and we have to develop ways of including them. In other climes, in universities, those key political parties in US, in the UK, they have student wing. We have Labour Party student wing, Conservative Party student wing, Liberal Party student wing. We have student wing of those parties in our institutions. If we don't, we need to do that. We need to develop leadership academy where we can actually train those students as well as our future leaders in how to run governments. Thank you.
Yeah, this is how far we are going to go. Let me just take one more question. Somebody has been raising up his hand. Zoom user. Who is Zoom user? Please go ahead and ask your question or you make your contribution. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Please, can you hear me?
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is so and now, one of my contribution, I will put it in form of question because my name is Sulaiman. I'm a student of Research and Public Policy in University of Ibadan. So I want to talk about two things. The first one has to do with democracy. So I think in the academia, we, to some extent, we kind of careless or kind of give democracy. We try to modify it even when it is not working for us to some extent low. So majority of the scholars have been trying to put democracy in our throats to some extent. So I believe we in the academia, we can to some extent through research and the social capital which we have built and the ones we can always build on, develop a kind of system that can work for us in Nigeria, because the liberal democracy, from my little understanding and experience, has not been working for us, just like it has not been working for those that brought it to us actually. So my question is, are there no other, can't we in the academia look for other forms of government, or probably develop a kind of form that will actually work for us? Then secondly, talking about the recommendations on what are the things we can do. I'm sorry, majority of the scholars have been talking about the present way, finding solution to these problems. That is, we are talking about the present. So no one as far as I've heard, have mentioned about the future. So, and one of the things I believe is the fact that this political
Lemon, we have
yes,
limited time. The questions are well articulated. Let them answer. Yeah, let them
okay,
answer the
please, can I round up on this, please? I want
Please
to
do that quickly.
give a kind of framework and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, Dr. Yunus, would you like to respond to those two questions? Definition of democracy, need for an alternative, then the recommendation seems to address present. The recommendation did not address the future. Are you there? If you're not there, let Professor Olanike comment on what is said.
Okay,
Hello?
thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I would say that is a very wonderful question. So I'll just put it as finding a Nigerian solution to our Nigerian problem. That we need to go back to basics, identify where the problem started from, and try to address this. And I think one of the issues would be, again, a matter of a question of exclusion. Because when we exclude those that command respect or that command authority in the society, I know when we go back to the traditional space, the community space, people still tend to respect their community leaders, their traditional leaders, and listen to them and obey them more than their political leaders. So yes, in a way, as academics, we can research into this, and look for Nigerian solution to democratic or democracy challenges. This is, of course, in Africa, across Africa, you see places like Kenya, like Rwanda, like South Africa, where they're already talking about Africanism, Afrocentric approaches to solving African solutions. So yes, I agree with you, it is doable.
Yeah, very beautiful submission from Professor Lanike. So that's a work in progress for the academia. But if you look across Africa, people have actually responded to what you have mentioned. Sudan, Somalia, they came up with Islamic State, but the question is it working? Obviously, it's not. Awolowo tried welfareism. It was working along the line. It was also compromised. So the issue is not about the system or the ideology, but the people and the structure. Professor Muiwa mentioned it. A bad structure, a bad system managed by good people will still produce results. But the best system, the best structure, the best law, the best system of government with people with perverted minds, it will not work. That's the reality. That is the reality. So it's not about democracy, socialism, capitalism. Cuba is practicing communism. Are they enjoying? Venezuela practice communism. Are they enjoying? But China, remodel socialism and call it market socialism. They are enjoying. Why? The people are committed. They know where they are headed. They know what they want to do. So the most important thing is the people. Once the people are good, things will fall in place. A very good example in Nigeria is JAMB. JAMB was rotten, but under Oloyede, look at what it turned JAMB to. That is a simple thing. Once the person there is good, it's going to change the system. But once the system is good, but the person there is not good, nothing will work. I think this is how far we are going to go. Let me hand over to Dr. Nuruddin Bamiru to give vote of thanks and then to conclude the discourse. As I have mentioned, we are going to come up with a communique so that all that we have discussed will be cascaded to government, NGO, and other stakeholders. So on behalf of Muslim Lecturer Association and SINIDA, I want to thank everyone for finding time to join this conversation. Over to you, Dr. Nuruddin. Dr. Nuruddin, over to you. Dr. Nuruddin. Okay, if Dr. Nuruddin is not there, let me just call on our amiable president, MLA, to help us thank the panelists and also the participants.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for a well-done job. It's been close to 2 hours of very beneficial discourse on how Muslim lecturers can influence what's going on in politics by practically participating, not just by publishing around it, but to practically be involved. And then, of course, the challenges were raised, and then presenters, panelists, express their minds about it and push forward laudable ideas that I'm sure our participants really, hold on to. On this note, I want to sincerely appreciate our panelists, starting from Professor Ibrahim to Professor Yunusa and then Professor Lanike, for your time and share of your wealth of experience. We are indeed very grateful from here, and we are very hopeful that you will still be part of subsequent, programs of MLA. Why being a good ambassador out there? Whatever you have said today, we expect that definitely in your own immediate domain, you will try as much as possible to influence mind positively, Muslim lecturers around you, and of course in your institution and the neighboring ones. Sincerely, thank you very much. And of course, the organizers, the Senator team, we appreciate you immensely. Then Dr. Nuruddin, you are all well appreciated. So, and to all our participants, thank you very much. We hope you participate in subsequent MLA activities. Thank you very much. Beyond this, come next month, there will be another virtual academic discourse. Today's own is specifically special in the sense that it's usually during this day, June 12th, Democracy Day, where every other month we have a virtual academic discourse addressing different areas of relevance to us as researchers and academicians. Specifically in July, it's going to be about craftsmanship. And I think no doubt about it will be very beneficial, so you have to participate. Thank you once again. I'm indeed very grateful on behalf of MLA executives. Thank you so very much for this. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Thank you very much, our president. Before we leave, I would like to acknowledge a number of our Christian friends who have joined. Although we don't know them, but from their name, we know Henry Uzama. You are welcome. And if you look at the discussion today, it centers about patriotism, Nigeria, not about Muslim alone. So we really appreciate your coming. We also saw some other names like Professor Chris Oga. We value your presence, and so many other beautiful names that appear to be Christian or non-Muslim. So we implore every one of us to use the recommendation that the panelists have actually proffered to advance sustainable growth and development of Nigeria. Poverty does not know religion. Poverty does not know tribe. So we are working harmoniously, cooperatively, collectively to build a nation that is sustainable, scalable, that will transfer to the next generation. So thank you very much for attending this particular discourse. And I pray to the Almighty God to give us what we want in terms of prayers and aspiration. Bye for now.
Thank you.